Hello, friends. Welcome back. This is Nima. Today I'm working on creating a painting using Trinity Stamps products. This one in here is called Fly By, and I'm also using the October night sky. I'm using some of the stencils. It brings the trees, it brings the clouds, and the bats. And there's another one that I'm using that is for the stamp. The first thing that I need to do is to stamp the wedge, and I'm using watercolor paper. And this is going to be a painting 8 by 8, and I try to use the moon, but I need masking tape, so I cut about the size of the moon, the masking to mask the area of the moon, and I'm going to stamp the wedge kind of around the area where I think the moon will go. I'm using Memento to stamp this, and I want to make sure that it gets really, really dark. So I'm stamping a couple times. Um, Also because the watercolor paper that I'm using, 300 GSM, it's a very thick one. It's cold press, and it has a really, really um, a lot of texture in there. So I'm stamping in here a few times just to get as dark as possible. And so I'm kind of okay with this. Um, we can work with the legs when we're creating the design, because the legs, they're gonna blend in the design. I'm gonna tape this on my board. I'm gonna use a lot of water, and I just want to keep this as flat as possible. So this piece of paper in here is the one that I used to cut the mask, and I'm using it to get the right position of the moon before I apply the mask on top of my stamp. Make sure that all the borders are um, sealed so water doesn't get in. I'm using Paul Rubens watercolor painting. And the colors that I'm using in here, uh, I'm gonna start with a glow around the moon, that it is a very vibrant glow. I want the yellow um, on the around the moon, and then I want purple on the side. And to prevent those two to create green, I'm adding that shade of orange and pink around. So in that way, when I bring the purple in, and if it touches that area, it's not going to create um, green. This pretty purple will be mostly on the top. If I want that to be a little more intense, so I'm adding other shades of blues and purples. The bottom part of this painting will be as dark as possible, and I want the legs of the wish to blend in this painting. I'm not doing a perfect blend in here. I want those colors to show, to blend a little bit, but to show the strokes in here. It will create kind of a um, circles around the moon, and it just bring it a little more into the picture itself. As it gets dry, the colors, they're gonna get muted. So I'm going over this again with more of the yellow, the orange, the pink, and the purple itself, and also the black on the bottom, especially near the legs and the broom. Like I said, I want to make sure that those, they blend in there. Before it gets totally dry, I'm mixing shimmer with um, white, um, I think it's a white bleed proof. And I forgot what the name, just to create those stars in there. And it's getting dry, and it's showing too much of the legs. It's not as dark as I wanted, so I'm adding a wash in here of the purple with the black again, and that will blend a little better. We'll take those areas, put them a little darker in here, and I added some extra stars in here, and now I'm just ready to add the clouds. For the clouds, I'm using the stencil, and I want those clouds to come all the way from the left into the moon. She's flying in between, so the clouds are going over her. And I'm using Distress Oxide Lost Shadow because that one, even on top of the black, you will see that Lost Shadow color in there. And adding the moon, sorry, over the moon, this cloud, and extending it to the left, so it shows that it's a cloud that is passing through completely. It's just a Halloween day. Now I'm using this on the bottom, and on the top, coming from the other side, I'm gonna use um, I'm gonna flip the stencil, move the stencil to the top, so I can bring the other one from the right into the moon. I'm going again with the Lost Shadow, starting on the moon. When you use watercolor, your watercolor might get a little bit into the sponge. So that's why I'm starting on the moon and from the moon to the color. That way I don't drag the color into the moon. Seems like my wish is not totally black, and my solution is to add watercolor paint and paint over her dress. It's mostly her dress, but I didn't paint over the area where the cloud went across. Um, I just painted around, and for the legs, I'm not gonna paint the legs. I'm just gonna paint just the dress because again, the legs, the idea of the legs is that they getting lost in the darkness of that scene in there. Now, the next thing that I'm bringing in here is the trees around. She's in a forest. She's flying in the forest. So this is gonna be all full of trees on the left and the right. And I'm using that October Night Sky stencil from Trinity Stamps so I can create those trees. Um, I'm gonna position the trees around the moon, and I'm gonna use a bunch of sticky notes just to cover the areas that I don't want the ink to get in there, at least not yet. And I'm gonna use from Gina Kate Black Onyx so I can ink all those trees in there. This process took a little bit of time because I wanted to put as many trees as possible, but also I wanted to keep all those branches showing. So I took my time to get into those little lines in my stencil so I could get all the trees in there. And like I said, all this area on the left and on the right, it will be covered with trees. The next thing that I'm gonna do is, now that I have that in there, that tree on the right hand side, it feels like it's a little short. It needs something else. So I'm using just a portion of that stencil that I just positioned on right on the tree to create another branch. That's something else that you can do. In that way, you um, you get more from the stencil. You can use that stencil to add variation to the same stencil itself. I'm using the bats, three of them. The stencil brings four, a larger one. I didn't want to use the larger one, just the three little ones. These are very important part of this scene in here because she is flying in the middle of this forest with her bats, her friends, flying with her. And the forest, it's a very thick forest, so I'm adding additional trees on the left and the right. My my stencil is not long enough to get to the 8 inches of my paper, so I'm using the part of the trunk of the tree so I can extend those trees all the way to the border of my paper. I'm going to add additional trees on the other side, and I'm going to continue adding trees. And sometimes what I do is that I flip the stencil just so I use the other side of the stencil to create different trees. They're going to look a little different. They're going to give you variety to all this in here. Once I add all these extra branches to the trees and I'm happy with this, I still have the bottom part like a two open. So I'm going to use watercolor painting to add additional strokes. I added tape on the bottom. I added the tape again on the bottom so I would not um, paint the border on the bottom. And I'm using watercolor to add additional branches. And I'm also adding a little bit of a foliage like grass growing in there. It's completely dry. The only thing that I need to do is cut my sentiment. Trick or Treat is the name of that stamp. It brings also, it comes with the dies, and actually it's a really long, so I cut it so it will fit inside of my stamping tool because I'm gonna use hidden bows, and I'm stamping this twice so I can get enough of the embossing fluid in there before I use the embossing powder. The embossing powder that I choose is purple. It's a dark purple. It's called eggplant, and it's from Recollection, and it has a little bit of a shimmery things. Hard to see it through the pictures. It is a pretty one. So I'm gonna hit this and then cut it, and it's ready. I just need to glue this in place. The white on the sentiment, it will kind of balance with the white of the moon in here. I'm gonna glue first trick. That's gonna give me my position for the rest of the two words. And I'm bringing this T-square in here just to make sure that everything is about, the same area. And the next word that I'm gonna glue is treat. I'm doing that because I want to have the same spacing on the left and the right. And then whatever I have in the middle will be for or in there, for that word in there. And with this, there's only one more thing that we need to do. We just need to remove those tapes in there, and see all that border. I love when my paintings, they got all that white border in here. And this is a painting that I'm gonna use to display on my house during Halloween. I'm gonna put it in a frame next to the door. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. and frame it and display, and it's ready. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.